Hey guys, welcome back to the Franchise Tag Podcast, kicking off Super Bowl week here in episode 22
Yeah, because we're
of the
so
podcast.
excited. I could hear it in your voice. You were just
Hooray!
so
Super Bowl.
energized
Hey man,
with
been a
this
long day.
matchup.
Yeah, also this matchup doesn't help. Anywho, we're going to go over our lengthy pick'ems results from last week, as
Mm-hmm.
well as
All four
going over
results.
the lengthy pick'ems result or pick'ems segment for this week. The whole game we have to predict. And then we're gonna talk about the
Play by play. We're doing every single play.
we're actually discussing every single play from championship weekend and the Super Bowl. We already have the script, so we can discuss every play from the upcoming Super Bowl. Spoiler alert:
15-yard
Steelers.
Pacheco run to open up the game.
The Steelers actually stormed the field at halftime and beat the Chiefs. So, anywho, for pick'ems last week, I went 1-1, which is sad because that was my first incorrect pick of the entire playoffs, was picking the Ravens over the Chiefs. And I think I said in the segment that, hey, picking against Patrick Mahomes isn't a great idea. And you know what I did? I did it anyways, and I learned to suffer.
Yeah.
But I did have the stipulation that if Debo played, I wanted to pick the 49ers, and that if Debo did not play, then I would pick the Lions. And as dicey as that looked, Debo did play, and the 49ers did end up winning.
Yeah. I picked my two predictions based on what I wanted the Super Bowl to be. And now I'm just a sad boy. I have no dog in this race.
Oh, man.
That was tough.
Yeah.
But we can jump right into the heartbreaks of Sunday.
Yeah, you and I both definitely wanted it to be a Ravens-Lions Super Bowl. I was less... I cared less about the Lions winning than I did about the Ravens winning, but I still, that would have been ideal if the Lions won.
I think both of us agree the last thing we wanted was a Niners-Chiefs game.
Yeah. That rematch is just about as bad as it can get. But I know you watched more of the games than I did, so if you want to get into talking about the championship games from 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, it is 2 weeks old, so I'm not going to be super harping on anything. A lot of it's kind of been called out already at this point, but there was a decent amount of oh, here's the Chiefs getting the refs help like always, but more of it was valid than not, and there was more in my opinion, more nitpicking because it's a championship game, so everyone's gonna go to Twitter with their slow motion replays and be like, "Look, they missed this," and it's I don't get a lot of stock from that, but the things I do want to kind of go over was just the Ravens, maybe just mismanagement of their game plan. I'm sure you saw a lot of it, but they're running the ball.
They ran the ball 6 times?
Yeah, I think that was at halftime, that stat, but I'm not sure how many total carries they had. I think it might have been with running backs.
Yeah, with running backs, I think it was 6 over the whole game.
Mm-hmm.
So
there was, there was a certain weakness of the Chiefs that was just not at all targeted.
Yeah, and a certain strength of the Ravens where they had this great rushing attack, and they go into this game, and all of a sudden they just decide not to run it because the pass has been working for them. But the pass has been working for them because they have the lethal run attack. And so if they don't set up that run, then the Chiefs' pass defense is just going to crush their passing offense.
And Lamar did Lamar thing. He had good runs, but it's he didn't. When you have Lamar more of okay, well, we have to worry about the running back also getting it, and then okay, they're gonna play action as really hardcore. They didn't really have to worry about that because the defense just kind of played good, and they didn't have to worry about a run coming because they just decided they weren't going to do that. So there's that instance, just full game plan, offensive coordinator, game length wise, and then they also decided to beat themselves really because they were in the game for the entire game, and just poor decision making with the decision to reach at that goal line.
Yeah.
Especially we just talked about it,
Yeah.
before the game, like before that week of football, we were like, oh
Official
yeah, you know.
official statement. My stance on it has changed. That rule needs to be obliterated from all rule books
Yeah,
because it happened
that
in a
sounds
game
right.
that I care about. So now I care about the rule.
Yeah, we were just waiting for it, right? Because we were saying everyone's getting mad about it because their team is losing to it, and then you were like, "Oh wait, here it is."
It's like, oh wait, here,
But
no, that
yeah,
I still don't care about that.
yeah, it's
It's
not
I
a
mean,
rule that should be changed.
we've been harping on the refs all season, and that continues. Like they were still horrific. Um,
Yeah.
I've come around on the roughing call. Yeah, whatever. But the DPIs are insane. Like the
Hmm.
throw into triple coverage by Lamar, horrible decision. Lamar, come on. But at the same time, Isaiah Likely getting tackled before the ball even gets to the 10-yard line kind of makes that play impossible. Like, um, so like I do agree that that was a dumb throw and Lamar should not have made that throw into triple coverage, but Isaiah was calling for the ball and he didn't even have a semblance of a chance to get to it because he got tackled before the ball was even close to getting there. And it was uncalled. Nobody cared in the game. So
Yeah, there was like there was a good mix of, oh, the Ravens are beating themselves, and like, oh, here's another lucky flag for the in the Chiefs' favor.
yeah, and
But in the
it's
first half, like the Chiefs were not getting those calls for them. Like,
and I said it. I think I said it last week, or not last week, last episode, that the Chiefs are getting a lot of calls, and it's just like watching the games or watching the game in the divisional round. It just didn't help their case because they weren't like blatant calls that were missed in favor of the Chiefs or like just bad calls in favor of the Chiefs.
mm,
It was just like ticky tack calls that kind of went the Chiefs' way every time. And I don't think
mm,
that's enough to say that it's rigged or corrupted. It just really doesn't help the narrative that the Chiefs are on the same team as the refs. And then this
yeah,
week was even worse than that. And now I'm like, okay, I understand Chiefs haters now. And it feels like in the span of a year, everybody's gone from, wow, the Chiefs are fantastic. How are they still doing this? To, I hate the Chiefs and I want them to fail. And it's been
yeah.
like,
It's that back to back mentality because I mean they missed that one Super Bowl like the Bengals Rams and everyone's like, yeah, we're so happy that Mahomes isn't here. But then when Mahomes got back there last season, it was like, oh yeah, hopefully he gets it. Like
yeah.
there was obviously there's always going to be the detractors, but like overall there was not as much bashing of the Chiefs as of late. And I feel like maybe some of it is just that like everyone rooting for Lamar kind of thing going.
Yeah, I
Um,
was definitely on
but
that train.
I'm not exactly like hating on the Chiefs, you know. So
You
I've
are
always
you are
been
a Chiefs fan, so
I've always been on their side, but I also
have
I
eyes.
get the certain calls that were asked.
Yeah, Chiefs game not super fun to watch, but it is what it is, and the Chiefs are in yet another Super Bowl. But if we want to get into this devastating game the Lions had, if you specifically want to get into it, I only have one thing that I want to talk about, and that is CJGJ. So whenever we get to there, I'll bring it up.
All right. I wonder what you'll say. I'm yeah, uh that was like such an electric game to watch. Like, the first half, and then third quarter rolls around, and I'm like, this isn't great for us. But there's been in Lions Twitter, just Lions kind of like bubble, the third quarter. It's not the third quarter; it's the third quarter, and I did some little fact checking here. In offensive points scored in the first quarter, we are second in the league. Second quarter, seventh in the league. Third quarter, 20th.
Oh Jesus.
And then fourth quarter, third. So if you want to, make a comeback after being down big at halftime, we're the team to do it on. They
I guess, man.
cannot score in the third quarter. So, third quarter comes around, and I'm like, okay, yeah, this is more of the same. They're making a comeback. Come on, guys, let's stop that. And yeah, it just felt like so many miscues all the time in that second half, while everything was like perfection in the
Yeah.
first. Like the Jamison Williams play to like open up the game first drive. I was
Yep.
jumping, losing my mind,
Hmm.
crazy.
I
And that just sucked. Seeing the
Yeah,
crumbling, the slow like escape from our grasp of the game as
hmm
momentum just swung further and further in their way.
I had a feeling, I don't know what it was, but I got home and started watching that game in the second quarter, and it went to halftime, and I was like, this game's not over yet. Like this is,
Mm-mm.
I know it, like it looked bad, and I was like, ultimately it probably is over, but it's not. There's still a chance. There's two whole quarters left to play,
Yeah.
and the couple things I want to talk about, I did think of something else. Um, we both share the opinion that the decision to go for it on fourth was correct. The decisions,
Yeah.
multiple, because that's what got them to that position. And Dan Campbell said it himself, where like, yeah, in hindsight, taking your points is the smarter option, but the reason they were in the NFC Championship game at all is because they were risky, and those risks paid off all year.
Yeah.
And it's not like the plays were bad or that the plays were defended against perfectly. It kind of was just Josh Reynolds dropping the ball. And
Mm-hmm.
as unfortunate as that is, and shout out Josh Reynolds, no hate, of course. We don't spread hate to players who have rough games. Uh
Yeah.
it's just like it's hard to put blame on anybody else cuz the play was executed perfectly outside of the catch. The ball was placed on the money and it just
Yeah.
was dropped.
I wouldn't say the ball was on the money, but like if it's hitting
It
your
was
hands,
catchable.
you catch
Yeah.
it. Yeah, like if it hits your hands, catch it. It's not. I'm not gonna blame Jared Goff because in a super high intensity moment, he put the ball a foot away from perfection.
And especially against a really good defense like the 49ers, you might have to place the ball in a place where only your receiver can get it, and that may be a
Yeah,
foot outside of their comfort zone, but you need to be able to reach a foot outside of your comfort zone and make a catch.
yeah.
And he's not had drop issues in the past, if I'm correct in that. Like, it's not been a huge, like, oh my God, Josh Reynolds drops it. It's not like a Marquez
No,
Valdez-Scantling
he's
situation.
honestly more often than not, if it's not amon-ra, like third down, who it's up in the air, he's gonna grab it because he's just like he's got strong hands. Like he'll catch it way up, get hit, and he's gonna hold on, bring it
Yeah.
down. Just unfortunate for him.
Yeah. So nothing that nothing that the rest of the team did wrong, and nothing that Josh Reynolds shouldn't be able to do. The lights just kind of got too bright, maybe. But again, I don't want to just harp on Josh Reynolds the entire episode. So,
Yeah.
um,
I think the second fourth down was also notable because the first one was his drop, and then the second one, I think the broadcast did a good job going over that because they mentioned how with the like pre-snap orientation, it looked like it would be man coverage with the reaction to emotion or something like that. They gave the vibe of it's a man, and then they ran a concept that's really good against man coverage mesh, where you have the two kind of short. They're
drag
drags.
routes. Yeah.
Um, you got those two short drags, and you try to make that rub on the man, and just cause some miscommunication, some issue in the middle of the field, and hit one of the open mesh concepts. But they they bluffed it. They bluffed the man, came out in zone, and then Jared Goff had to you know, get moving on his legs and try to target someone that was open, and someone that was open was amon-ra, but it's not a great throwing platform when he's running away from like 3D linemen. So it wasn't a play that was gonna get made. I don't think as soon as it wasn't man coverage.
Yeah. And I mean, I think the other thing that we don't have anything written down about, but you were telling me y'all's kicker isn't great. So, like, the
No,
decision to go
Michael
for it.
Badgley was our kicker for most of last season, and then we went to Riley Patterson, and then Riley Patterson we let go, and we went back to Michael Badgley. I think we picked Badgley up off of someone's practice squad, and Michael Badgley attempted 6 kicks this year. All of them were within 40 yards, and he made all of them. But when you have a kicker who he has a career, I'm pulling it up right now. Oh, he has a career percentage of 38% from 50 plus. And I'm using 50 plus because one of them was a 48 and the other was like a 45, and I
Yeah.
feel
So
like
it's
using because they're kind of grouped in 40 to 49. So
Yeah.
I feel like his percentage from 40 is going to be a lot different than near 50,
Yeah.
and his percentage 40 to 49 is 77. But
Even that's not like,
yeah, it's not
anything
great. It's
crazy.
not. It's
And I'd be curious too
there's
what
room
the
for improvement, and we had to move people mid like season towards the end of the year. Like we were trying to improve at that field goal kind of spot.
I'd be curious too what the Lions' percentage of fourth down conversions were, like attempts to makes, to see like what statistically was the better option for them, because I feel like
But
all year they were really good at fourth down conversions and they got a lot of them. So their percentage may have been higher there than attempting a long field goal.
yeah, so I didn't have it marked, but I do have a page pulled up for that, like specifically. So sorry.
When we got that page
On
bookmarked, it's crazy.
on the on the year, uh the Lions had a 52.5% conversion rate on fourth down. Now, if you want to limit that to just fourth down and less than 4, which both of these were, it was 4th and 3 and 4th and 2. So if you limit it to just that, there was a 75% chance of conversion for the Lions.
Yeah, and at that point the payoff is so much higher that even if the success rate was lower for fourth downs, it'd be worth it for them.
Yeah. And I mean, if we use his 40 to 49 metric for making field goals, it's worse by 2%
Yeah.
in percentage of likelihood. And then analytically, um, there, I don't know the exact like algorithm or anything, but there was a thing I had seen of, okay, to your win percentage affected by going for this and converting versus going like and kicking the field goal, like those kind of percentages. The recommendation was to go for it because going for it left you with a 0.2% chance of winning versus the field goal. And then the same for the second attempt at the fourth down. The second fourth down attempt, it was also a 0.2% increase. So it's like, yeah, it's super minimal, but I think the more important part of it outside of the analytical part is Michael Badgley's field goal percentage versus the fourth down conversion rate.
Yeah, and if he misses that kick, then he's never hearing the end of it, and Dan Campbell's gonna regret not being aggressive forever. Whereas now he can't regret anything, really.
Yeah.
But I won't stay on the Lions for too long. I know that was a rough weekend and
Pain.
into the new week for you.
All I know is pain.
What was it that you said that was the first time you were happy since the Lions? Oh, Ben Johnson staying.
Ben
Yeah,
Johnson's
that's what it
announcement of
was.
staying with the team.
Oh, I
That was like the
remember
first
that.
time I looked and smiled at like something football related. I was like,
You just
luckily
see
I
a
didn't have
football
to
in the
wait too
corner
many
and start
days.
crying.
It wasn't too many days he made us wait for that knowledge, but it was certainly nice. I'm just like, kind of ignoring Twitter and not really wanting to think about the game. And then I hear Ben Johnson's back, and I'm like, okay, maybe I'll go listen to the post game interviews, see what the guys were, feeling. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was a positive day that day. But we gotta move off of these recaps here.
Oh, this one's gonna be fun. So we are moving to reviewing our preseason award picks and then making new awards picks now that we know the finalists. And oh boy, is this gonna be fun looking back at what we said in preseason. So I could flash up on the screen the segment, but we rambled for so long about that. It was like a 15-minute segment on 10 picks.
Yeah, we
So
had convos. We had convos. We gave our people that we thought were also in the running for it, but
yeah,
yeah, we don't need to bury ourselves extra hard with refreshing those.
I'm gonna
So
expose myself a little bit actually. My list of MVP picks, and if y'all didn't see that episode, the criteria was MVP not named Mahomes. And obviously in hindsight that sounds dumb because Mahomes is not the favorite for MVP. But
yeah, but
at the
we didn't know
time
that. Yeah.
at the time he was coming off of an MVP, right? And
Yeah, and he's the favorite to do it. So like,
yeah, so we were like, we don't want to just name the favorite. So I really believed in a Trevor Lawrence breakout year, and so I thought he could be an MVP candidate, and I thought Geno Smith could also be a candidate. I did preface that by saying these two are more of fun picks that I don't actually believe in, but I still mentioned them with the MVP award in the same sentence. Yeah, so I had those two as kind of more of like fun picks, but my actual pick was between Jalen Hurts and Joe Burrow. which before the season was not an unpopular opinion. Those were two of the other favorites. But at the end of the season, those are not favorites at all due to injury and suckage.
Suckage. Yes.
Yeah, that's what we'll
Regression.
call Jalen Hurts. Shout out our Eagles video. Go watch that.
Yes, please. Someone go watch that.
So if you want to get into your MVP pick, because
yeah, I'll get into my MVP pick. So I had mentioned that there, I picked Tua. Now I'll get that out of the way. I picked Tua, and I was hoping that he would be healthy this full year. And start of this year, it was looking pretty good. They dropped 70 points. I was like, yeah, suck it. But I also had some other in the running candidates whose name was Aaron Rodgers, Joe Burrow. So this is just the
injury. This is just the death
injury train
book.
Yeah, this is actually just the injury report. I had the script out early and leaked it wrong. But yeah, I had Tua as my pick, and once again, not a finalist for that. But he had a solid little few weeks where he was.
And then do we want to get into our pick this season with the nominees and everything? Because I think we agree on who we think the MVP should be.
I think we can get this one out of the way. It's going to be a guy who they're into triple coverage. No, I won't do that.
It's Lamar. Lamar is the MVP.
Yes.
And I'm not just saying that because he's leading a team that has had a good record, right? That is something I'm adamantly against, is picking the quarterback of the team with a good record as the MVP. And that's why I thought Jalen Hurts for MVP was stupid last year and stupid for the first half of this year. Because I was like, he just isn't doing all that. Also, I did pick him, but
he's getting those tush push.
That's why I thought it was stupid. I didn't think he was incapable of it. I thought it was dumb because he the eye test wasn't passed for MVP, which I think is a big part of it. And Lamar is not just the leader of the team that is good. He is, outside of the defense, the reason their offense works. Like if you take Lamar out and put another quarterback in, that team is not winning a ton of games. They're going to be akin to the Patriots. Maybe not that bad, but really good defense, performs really well, can't put it together on offense. And that's
even if you put in a similar type of player. If you put Kyler Murray in, they're still not winning as many games as they do with Lamar's talent.
Yeah.
But with that kind of obvious selection out of the way, I'd say we move on here for offensive player, and I'll kick this one off. I made a little prediction that it wasn't going to be any running backs, and I predicted a little bit of a running back fall off. So that came to fruition with CMC being the only one to touch. I think it was on your bingo, right? It was he didn't touch 1,500, but he was close.
I had said that nobody would touch 1,500 rushing yards this year, and CMC had 1,460 or something like that.
Yeah, so I had that it was going to be not a running back, and I had it that it wasn't going to be Justin Jefferson. And I went with Jamar Chase to go with the other LSU guy. And yeah, that was also derailed by Joe Burrow's injury and his own little injuries. But yeah.
My offensive player pick was Cooper Kupp if he's healthy, and then I also had Debo and Garrett Wilson written down as some honorable mentions. And I think I can chalk Garrett Wilson up to injury of the quarterback, Cooper Kupp up to injury of himself, and Debo, I personally think should be on this offensive player of the year list over Dak.
Maybe a quarterback. Yeah.
Because, everybody knows MVP is the quarterback award. We can't have an MVP quarterback and an offensive player quarterback. I guess the reason they put it there is in case, Christian McCaffrey won MVP, then Lamar would win offensive player, and that would be suitable in my eyes. But so I think my overall pick was Kupp, but I did mention his health, and so I would shift my pick to Debo or Garrett Wilson based on the season Kupp had. And I think that Debo is a decent pick for that. I think he elevated his offense. He also had a couple injuries here and there that kind of, I think, probably kept him out of the running. But
yeah, I think that when we transfer this to the actual pick out of the nominations, it's going to be his teammate. I feel like no matter.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say that the MVP chances of a running back are pretty slim right now, and so it's going to be him at Offensive Player of the Year.
Yeah,
Tyreek Hill had a good chance at it, but until that final like stretch of the year, it really fell off.
yeah, and I don't even know what it was. It was just a string of games that weren't phenomenal, and so he
It
just kind
wasn't
of
record breaking. It
yeah.
wasn't like on pace for
It was
insane
like
stuff.
only
So
100 a game. Like, bro, come on, be better.
all right, and then Defensive Player of the Year, if you want to kick us off.
So yeah, for the overall pick, I think we're agreeing on this one as well that we think CMC's winning Offensive Player of the Year. And then on to Defensive Player of the Year, I had Micah as my favorite, and I just think it's funny that I picked three of just like kind of gimme names, and one of them was a DB, and it wasn't Deron Bland because who the hell would have picked Deron Bland in the preseason? But I had my list of Micah, TJ, and Sauce Gardner, and Micah and TJ are here just kind of by default, and then there's Myles Garrett, Max Crosby, Deron Bland are the other three, and then yeah, I don't know if I explicitly said it, but my pick was Micah.
Yeah, my pick was also Micah in the preseason, and I had some I'd say more fun, not so much gimme. I put Chris Jones in, and then I put Nick Bosa, who's would be kind of arguable for more of a gimme, but still not really. I'd say it goes to T.J. Watt
Yeah,
over that, but
I'm saying Myles Garrett because I hate TJ Watt. His pass rush win rate isn't quite as high as Myles Garrett. I do love
those
hating
Steelers
on
fans.
I do love hating on the Steelers. I really do. It's so much fun. But yeah, TJ Watt deserves the award. He should get it. And then on to Offensive Rookie of the Year. I had Bijan, JSN, and Jordan Addison. And man, Jordan Addison was off to a hot start. Bijan was my pick. I don't think he's winning it, but I think it was obviously a decent gimme selection. And I obviously didn't write any quarterbacks down, but I will say in that preseason episode, I was just listening to it to figure out who I picked because I never wrote it down anywhere. But I had said I don't think it's going to be a quarterback unless one of them has just this phenomenal year where they just perform way beyond expectations. And I think that kind of happened.
Yeah,
so.
I think certain somebody did that. Before we get into that, my Offensive Rookie of the Year pick was Bryce Young, and I prefaced that the O line would need to figure out how to pass block in order for him to reach that.
They did not.
They did not. And
it was what 10 touchdowns, 11 picks, maybe flip that, but
I'm pretty sure 11 picks.
Yeah, I think it wasn't a great season
not
for the man.
Favorable. But yeah, it was my pick before the season, and I'm not super happy about that. But I had Bijan as like a secondary pick, and then he wasn't utilized at all because why would he be utilized on the Falcons as a top 8 pick?
Yeah. So I think we're agreeing overall on C.J. Stroud being the offensive rookie. Shout out Puka, and I think he's got a legit push for it, but
yeah,
I mean,
and shout out Sam Laporta because pride.
True.
and
yeah,
like,
shout out Jahmyr Gibbs as well.
Yeah, I think honestly, Bijan is kind of like an outlier out of this group in terms of like production that was like significant.
And he did have significant production. He just wasn't given the touches. Yeah. Like he had a damn good year on half touches. Like he was evenly splitting snaps with Tyler Algier, and he was vastly outperforming him. But Arthur Smith hates fantasy football and hates life. So
he said, "I don't need him on my injury report. I'm not giving him a snap. Damn it."
Yeah.
But I think I would lean that it's gonna go quarterback because everyone seems to have a hard on for quarterback awards. Making every award a quarterback award would be their
Puka obviously won, or not won, but he broke records. Like he was insanely good. The value is definitely Puka, but I think that CJ Stroud almost single-handedly turned around that Texans franchise, and obviously it was coaching as well. Huge shout out to D'Amico Ryans. But I think the other thing to talk about with Puka, and it's not like that he shouldn't be given credit because of this, but the top 2 receiving seasons of all time in yards are Calvin Johnson with Matthew Stafford at quarterback and Cooper Kupp with Matthew Stafford at quarterback. And the best rookie receiving season ever is Puka Nacua with Matthew Stafford at quarterback. So I don't think that he should be docked points because he has Stafford at QB, but I
Yeah.
think that it's less impressive to break records when you have Stafford as QB. And I don't mean that
When
it's
you have
not
the
impressive.
quarterback who has record-breaking receivers
Stat
every other
Padford,
year.
right? Like, yeah. his nickname is not Stat Padford for no reason, right? And again, it is impressive. It is very impressive what Puka has managed to do, but it seems like Matt Stafford is doing this every season with somebody. So that's my 2 cents on it, and that's why I think CJ Stroud deserves it over Puka. But obviously, shout out everybody on that list. Everybody had a phenomenal season.
Yeah. I'll kick us off with defensive rookie of the year, my preseason prediction, just because it was outlandish and wasn't going to happen. But I put Brian Branch.
He had a good year.
That was my Lions favoritism. Had it come in for at least one award, and I prefaced in the video that if you want a logical answer, because it's not going to go to a nickel corner, then it's going to be a D tackle or a D lineman rather, and yeah, there's half of the selections here, nominations are D
3 of
linemen,
the
so
5,
that's the
yeah.
logic. So, um, I'll let you say your defensive rookie, and then we'll go into picking our.
Yeah, this I feel like overall at like for the end of the season or for like the current predictions, I think that this is the first one we're going to disagree on. But I initially said Gonzo, and I think that if he had a full season, he definitely would have been in the running because he was off to a torrid hot start. Christian Gonzalez, for anybody that doesn't know who Gonzo is,
Doesn't
but
torrid mean bad?
torrid means like just blazing fast, torrid hot.
Okay, continue.
Hold on, double checking.
Parched with
Torrid.
heat.
Yeah, torrid hot. So just like an insanely hot start, basically. Anywho. Yeah. I think that if he had a full season, definitely would have been in the running, if not front runner for the award. He was really good, and it goes back to exactly what I was saying in the preseason, where insert a physically gifted cornerback into Bill Belichick's DB favoring system, actually just defensive favoring system, and watch him go. Like wind him up and watch him go, and that's exactly what happened. I also had mentioned Will Anderson and Brian Branch and Jalen Carter in my honorable mentions. So
Yeah, I think Jalen Carter is really like in the nominations just because it's like he had a good start to the year, but I feel like he was in talks mostly because it's like, oh, it's a Georgia guy on the Eagles and it's a D lineman, like they're gonna do great because the D line just did great, and
yeah,
they didn't do great, and so I feel like he's kind of one I would take some merit away from in terms of the actual nominees at the end of
yeah,
the year.
yeah. The other one I want to talk about is Joey Porter Jr., who also started off real hot and then kind of fell
Petered
off.
off. Yeah.
And I know I've mentioned it before. I'm on Bears Twitter a lot just because I like Justin Fields and was really like I'm very invested in the Fields versus Caleb Williams like thought
Feud.
process and like
Mm-hmm.
the like I'm all for it. I'm all for talking about it. And so I'm on Bears Twitter all the time. And there's a lot of people that are mad because Tyreek Stevenson didn't get nominated for defensive rookie when it was basically Joey Porter Jr. was good for 8 weeks and bad for 9 weeks. And Tyreek Stevenson was, or not bad for 9 weeks, but he was mediocre for 9 weeks. And Tyreek Stevenson was mediocre for 9 weeks and then good for the last 8. So it's basically like they just had flipped seasons where one of them figured it out as they went along and was a late round draft pick, and one of them was like
Got figured out.
top pick of the second round, or yeah, top pick of the second round,
Yeah.
basically a first round draft pick this year because the Dolphins lost theirs. So it was pick 32, and he started off looking real good, and then something happened and he couldn't play any, like he wasn't
Mm-hmm.
good anymore. So that's more worrying to me than, hey, this fifth round guy was kind of rough at the start, but now he's great.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I agree with Bears Twitter in that case because I don't like the Steelers. So cheers.
We're moving on to the defensive rookie pick. You said you prefaced that you think we're going to disagree
Yeah,
here.
I honestly thought you were going Jalen Carter. I'm gonna be 100% honest, or Kobe Turner,
No, I'm anti. But you're going. Who are you picking?
Devon Witherspoon,
Okay.
because
I.
I just know we
Go.
had like a slight disagreement earlier in the year about whether he was good or not, because you had seen some things about him being bad and I had seen some things about him being good, and
Witherspoon.
neither of
Yeah.
us had seen the other side. Like I hadn't seen anybody
Hmm.
talking about him being bad and you hadn't seen anything about him being good. So we were just like basically at each other's throats like, "No, he sucks. No, he's great."
Yeah. Honestly, if I was like Kobe Turner had a great year, but he's also right next to Aaron Donald.
Yeah.
So there's some
Triple teaming
opportunities
Donald.
opening up there. But I think I honestly I would be leaning Will Anderson here. I just feel like the it might be a little bit of the popularity contest coming in of the awards race, but he had a really good year down the stretch. So that's who I would have picking for my if I was placing a bet here, I'd be betting on it being him.
Yeah. I wouldn't be mad about it, but if I was placing a bet, I'd be putting it on Witherspoon. So, and then we didn't really talk about it at all in preseason. But do we want to talk about comeback player of the year?
No, I think
Okay.
preseason we agreed that we weren't going to talk about it because it's going to be DeMar Hamlin, and
Okay.
I think we're
Yeah.
in the same spot there. One
I
thing I
mean,
do want to shout out for my idiocracy, because we didn't make Coach of the Year predictions, but I went ahead and predicted it would be Matt Eberflus after the Bears made the playoffs and had a playoff run,
yeah.
and he kept his job. So I guess that's an award in
You know
itself.
what?
But
Coach of the year. You kept your job coaching the Bears. You've done better than every other one so far. Um, I
but
actually
if
do
I
have
had
a
to go ahead.
I do have a piece I want to say about comeback player of the year, and it's not something that's revolutionary or that's never been said before. I just want to be another voice adding to the chance.
To the masses.
Make most improved player an award. Let us get a Baker Mayfield award and
Oh,
like a
true.
Joe Flacco award. Like give it to one of them for the season because Joe Flacco was on his
He came
couch
back
and
from
then
being
led a
old.
team to the
Yeah,
playoffs. And Baker Mayfield was throwing horrific passes in training camp and then just went on to have a great season and lead his team to the playoffs when everybody
yeah.
expected them to be in the Caleb Williams lottery.
Comeback players should be injury based, and then there should be most improved, which is like younger guys or just someone who completely turned like
Gino last year.
Gino. Yeah,
Yeah.
like Gino last year. The
Because
Dave Canales factory.
it's the Dave Canales Award.
Yeah.
The Dave Canales Comeback Player of the Year Award.
But yeah, I think that can wrap up our kind of end of year predictions and our review of our preseason award prediction there.
Yeah, and I think we can get into the Super Bowl. Whoa.
Whoa. It's that time, guys.
It is that time. It is Super Bowl Thursday. Anywho,
You want me to kick
we in
this bad boy
pick'ems?
off?
We're in pick'ems. All right. So, whoa. What's that? I lied to you because
Whoa.
we're not in pick'ems. We're in the playoff stat sheet segment,
Yes,
baby.
you just got debated. The playoff stat sheet, a new little increment here, just to isolate the teams of importance. Kind of included their full season long stats because that's what the basis of this entire kind of segment was made off of. And then I narrowed it down to just the past few weeks. So I do want to make note, one of these teams played in the wild card round and one of them did not. So the Chiefs do have a whole nother game under their belt. But I don't think it's that important because I mean you come to averages and like if you want to detract from them, for this being slightly lower, then there's your reason. If it's slightly higher, then I'd say that's kind of just a little factor of it being favorable in their eyes. But the biggest thing to me that like defines the past few weeks is you look at the Chiefs points per game. They're slightly up, offensively slightly up on points per game. And then defensively, they went from being the second best uh, defensive like points per game wise, to now having held teams to 4 less points throughout the this stretch of games. So they're still kind of up there, while the Niners kind of flipped, where they were top end, third right behind them at the 17-point mark, and then now they're allowing 26 points per game.
Yeah, and the Niners kind of looked a little bit I wouldn't say rough, but definitely like they had lost a step in the playoffs.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, because they were struggling against the Bucks, they struggled against the Lions, and they had to have comeback victories, which is something that the Shanahan-led offenses just haven't done until Brock Purdy. So
yeah, I think that the watching them play, I was like, oh, they seem beatable, and then I kind of, and they didn't play the Bucks, they played the Packers, but
that's right. Yeah.
But I was like, oh, they seem beatable. I'm not super worried. And then we were up, multiple scores, and I was like, yeah, this is great. And then we lost. So, but I think that like the Niners, ironically, showed more weakness through the playoffs than the Chiefs did, and the Chiefs showed so much weakness throughout the entire regular season on offense, and like there's a certain note to be made of like the Shanahan team came from behind, but they were getting behind, and the Chiefs were kind of they just felt like they weren't ever out of a game, but it's because the game was always close. It wasn't because they were down like 20 points and then they came back off a miracle catch, ladybug catch. But I think that I am favoring the Chiefs despite, betting odds favoring the Niners here.
I mean, it's the same thing that I've been talking about, where you just kind of can't bet against the Chiefs. Mm-hmm. And I am going to be picking the Niners, but only because I don't want the Chiefs. Like, I just can't pick the Chiefs. I can't do it. I'm not going to. It's a like it is a purely petty thing at this point that I'm not picking the Chiefs. I fully believe they're going to win. I fully believe Patrick Mahomes is going to cement himself as like top 2 quarterback all time for sure, even though he kind of already has. But I think he's going to like debate he's top 2.
Kind of already has is like recency bias, and
yeah,
there are arguments against that, obviously. But I think with the win,
it's going to be cemented, and unfortunately I think that's going to happen. But I just can't bring myself to say it. So I won't. So I'm picking the 49ers to win this game.
Yeah, see, hot take, I would prefer the Chiefs win this, and purely not even like, oh, I'm a Chiefs fan. I just want them to win it because they struggled through the regular season and the other team didn't. And so it's kind of backwards, because to me this is like, oh, they were so up and down, so much adversity. Like, this is a Cinderella story, but meanwhile it's like it's not actually, because they're the ones that go to the ball every year. Like, this isn't like,
yeah, it's like last year's Super Bowl. Like, it feels like it happened again. Like, last year it was cool because it was like, damn, this was supposed to be a rebuilding year and they're in the Super Bowl and they won the Super Bowl. What the hell?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I want Brock to get his flowers, and I think that he will if he gets a Super Bowl. And I think that there's always going to be talk about, oh, he's the weapons around him, yada, yada, yada. But I think that this would kind of limit some of that. And I'm all for that because I believe in Brock.
Yeah. I can't watch the Niners win. It would probably unlock some PTSD inside of me to resurface, fill me with pain, agony. So I'll need to be hopefully watching the Chiefs win, so I'm not filled with pain and agony seeing the Niners once again accept the trophy.
Yeah, so I would rather see Fred Warner and George Kittle and CMC and Brock Purdy and Debo and Brandon Ayuk. I would rather see them up there than Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes again.
And Taylor Swift.
Come on, dude. Again.
How are you gonna not?
Shout out T.
They're Rookie of the Year. Yeah. I would like to see Mahomes legacy cemented further. So
Chiefs
more
Glazer over
more
here.
than I
It's
want
crazy.
the Niners to win, and I just don't. I don't.
I just
I
think
haven't liked the Niners really. Like I like the players, but I don't like the Niners fans. They give the same vibe as Cowboys fans to me, and so
I
that's another
disagree.
reason I can't really root for them.
I just think that this team deserves it. Like they have put together such a phenomenal roster and they've built everything so perfectly that if they don't get a Super Bowl, it's just going to be like, what's the problem? Like, and I think a lot of it is going to fall on Brock Purdy's shoulders, and that they're going to feel like they can't win it all with Brock because they couldn't when they had the perfect team around him. So
Yeah,
that's
that's fair. I want to quickly mention, or rather, I want to mention why we didn't mention injuries, and that's because obviously we're a little bit earlier in the week at the time of recording, so everything is just questionable right now. Obviously, Charles Omenihu with his ACL injury, he's out, but everything else is up in the air. Like we could see Joe Tooney, we could see Kadarius Toney, Jerick McKinnon. Like we can see a lot of these guys work themselves back to being healthy. So it's like we're not going to count them out days before. And also, it's the biggest game of the year. Like the likelihood of them at least trying to play is a lot higher.
yeah. But I think that, I mean, that was basically our pick'ems. I don't think there's.
Yeah, there was a mix. We mixed them up in there.
We mixed them up, but I was okay with it this time. Gabe approved this on this occasion. For reference, one of our earlier videos, the first time I think the playoff stat sheet was introduced, you wanted to mesh them together, and I was like, ew, no, there's 16 games to predict.
The first game of playoffs. It wasn't like mid regular season. It was there was like wild card. And you were like, no.
There was 6 games to predict, and you wanted to just talk about them individually with the stats and do our picks. In hindsight, probably would have been fine, gone great, but I didn't want to. I was stuck in my ways.
Stubborn as always.
If y'all have stuck around this long, mock draft coming after the Super Bowl. We got to wait for the final 2 picks to be cemented, and then we'll have that out. Philly video, go watch that one. Shout out the Eagles downfall. I'll link it in the description or something if I'm savvy like that.
Hey, be extra savvy. Put the end cards. Come on.
Oh, I totally should. That's a lot of effort. I might do it though. We'll see. But yeah, I think that's just about it. I should have mentioned this at the start, but if I sound different today, it's because my allergies are killing me, man. It's a wonder that I'm here right now.
It's a wonder he's alive.
Medicated and here.
You know,
whoop, whoop.
You wouldn't have thought that he was struggling based on our pre-record laughing fits we were having, but yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll get a little sneak peek at that. Peek behind the curtain of
you won't.
30 minutes of laughing.
30 minutes of giggle fits. Yeah. So it's devolved. We will have one more podcast episode after the Super Bowl. Just an off-season preview, I think, is what we're going to do a lot of. We'll flesh out our ideas in the coming week for our off-season videos and the people we want to focus on for some draft profiles and a couple other things of that nature. But it'll be fleshed out. Some
free agent, I'd say, road maps is a good kind of idea.
Yeah.
But
definitely.
That closes us out. I'm throwing up the peace signs as my usual, and we out.
Deuces.